half dozer, half compact track loader. From a simple description standpoint, that does a pretty good job of telling you about the Case Minotaur DL550. But the truth behind this machine, the years of development, the engineering, the design, the nearly 12,000 hours of in-the-field operators' butts in the seat testing, they go a little bit deeper than just 6 words. Take, for instance, the machine's namesake. So in Greek mythology, the Minotaur is described as having the head and tail of a bull and the body of a man. And without getting into any more detail than is necessary here, in other words, it had bull parts and it had man parts. And just like the Minotaur in Greek mythology, the Minotaur DL550 has all of the parts that you would need for a true CTL and all of those that you would need for a true small dozer. This isn't just a CTL with a blade pinned onto the front. This is an entirely new category of machine, one that Case is calling the compact dozer loader. And honestly, it's really not fair to say that this machine is half of one thing and half of the other. So in this video, what we're gonna do is we're gonna lay out all of the core aspects, functionality, components, you name it, that make this machine fully a CTL and fully dozer. And that includes the intent behind creating such a machine, the blade, C-frame, and undercarriage specs that make it a great dozer, and the specs that make it a very powerful CTL. And we're gonna wrap up with the unique control system that allows you to switch between those two tasks easily. Now, one thing I want to establish right away, something I think is going to help you digest the philosophy and the design, the intent behind this machine a little bit easier, is the fact that Case did not come at this trying to make a CTL into a dozer. They really came at it from the other way around. Basically, Case was looking at its dozer lineup and had seen the demand for a smaller dozer, one that was smaller, more compact than the current smallest dozer in the lineup, the 650M. Now, the 650M is a 68 horsepower dozer with a 90-inch blade standard that weighs in around 16,000 pounds. But in exploring the idea of a smaller dozer, an idea crept in. What if the customer's investment in a new machine of this type wasn't limited to just dozing? And at the same time as they were exploring this new small dozer idea, really the CTL had risen to its pinnacle of popularity as the most popular type of construction equipment being sold today, dethroning the skid steer. And obviously over the years, right, the CTL has grown larger and more powerful and capable of powering bigger and bigger attachments. So the thought occurred to the folks at Case, well, we've got this CTL and our own platform, the B series, has matured to such a point that they felt like they could take their largest CTL and start from that as the starting point and make a small dozer. But not just a small dozer that also retained its CTL capabilities, one that would significantly decrease the ROI time on a new machine purchase if you're able to doze with it and load with it. All right, so here's how they did that. Now we're gonna start here with the basic specs around the Minotaur DL550, which kind of naturally segues into a discussion of its true dozing capabilities. Now, at the heart of this machine is a 114 horsepower engine. Now, it's worth noting that's actually more horsepower than Case's middle of the lineup 850M dozer. Another dozer comparison worth noting here is that the DL550 weighs in at 18,000 pounds, which makes it heavier than the 16,000 pound Case 650M and only 1 ton lighter than the next step up, the 750M dozer. Now, continuing to look at the specs of this machine in comparison to the dedicated dozing lineup from Case, you can actually get this equipped with a 90 or a 96-inch 6-way blade, and this is really where things get interesting. Now, the 650M dozer comes standard with the same 90-inch blade that comes standard on the DL550, while the 750M comes standard with the optional 96-inch blade, the very same one that you can equip the Minotaur with. And look, while the blade support on the 650M and the 750M is obviously higher, those machines can support blades up to 120 inches depending on really the undercarriage configuration that you have on them. When you take into account the full picture with the Minotaur, the higher horsepower, the comparable weight at 18,000 pounds, and the support for 90 to 96-inch blade widths, you really get a machine that, you know, right on paper, pretty clearly and automatically is going to be able to compete production-wise with just about any brand's, small dozer lineup in the middle to upper end of those lineups, and all in the footprint of a CTL. That's pretty cool. Now, part B to this discussion around the Minotaur's blade and the front kind of dozing end of this machine is likely more important than the blade itself, and that's this machine's pin-on C-frame. Now, this is the biggest X factor in this machine, providing true dozer performance, because it attaches directly into the chassis and the primary coupler of the Minotaur DL550, and it does so in a matter of seconds. Now, beyond the convenience of easy attachment, the other thing that this pin-on C-frame does is that it ensures that the pushing power, the dozing power of this machine is being channeled through the chassis structure of the Minotaur rather than its lift arms, which makes it a very different thing than taking a dozer blade attachment and putting it onto the front of a CTL. And this pin-on C-frame is great, obviously, for long-term durability, but it's also key in that the dozing power of this machine is coming from its center of gravity and not introducing weak points to that force that could come through the lifting arms. Now, in combination, what all of this means is that between the power and the weight and the pin-on C-frame and the six-way blade, you're getting the stability and the feel of a dozer's operating plane. This feels like a dozer whenever you're using it in dozing mode. The other key component in this machine as a dozer is the undercarriage. Now, Case is offering both steel and rubber tracks on the Minotaur. One rubber track configuration is available, a 17.7 inch, but on the steel track side, you can equip the steel tracks in either 14-inch single grouser or 18-inch triple grouser configurations. Now, beyond the tracks, Case didn't simply just take a CTL undercarriage, throw it on this machine, and call it a day. No, the Minotaur's undercarriage design was heavily informed by elements of Case's 650M, 1650M, and even its 2050M dozers. It's built like a dozer undercarriage, and it provides 25,000 pounds of drawbar pull to the blade. Now, that drawbar pull spec, that is really the primary point of separation between the Minotaur DL550 and the dedicated 650M dozer. While the Minotaur has that 25,000 pounds of drawbar pull, which is impressive for a machine of this size, for true dozing capability, the 650M's drawbar pull is going to outdo this machine. It's at 39,000 pounds of drawbar pull. But going back to the positives on this machine, this undercarriage being informed by both dozer and CTL makes it unique in the Case lineup of dozing capable machines in that it's the only one with a high drive undercarriage. Now, in this discussion, we've obviously focused a lot on the blade end of the machine, but let's not forget, what's going on in back. The Minotaur DL550 is also available with a fully integrated rear ripper. Now, the standard ripper that you can choose includes 3 shanks, but you can also expand up to 5. Now, one note on the ripper, because Case is going to handle orders of the DL550 on a kind of build to order basis, if you want a ripper, you're going to have to select that option when ordering the machine because it can't be added on later. Essentially, Case is building the chassis and the undercarriage with these machines to either support use of a ripper or not. Now, with all the talk about dozing on this machine, you might be wondering, what about grade control? Now, Case is shipping the Minotaur DL550 with standard universal grade control harnesses and brackets. Now, it's going to allow you to equip this machine with 2D and 3D solutions from Leica Geosystems, Topcon, and Trimble. So we've established that the Minotaur has clear dozing capabilities, that it's more powerful, it's more capable than simply taking a blade and attaching it to a CTL. But what about this machine's CTL capabilities? Well, the good news is that once you detach that C-frame and blade, you still have what is an extremely powerful CTL left to work with. Now, first of all, the Minotaur DL550 is a vertical lift style machine, providing a huge 140 inches of hinge pin height. Now, that's nearly 12 feet of lift height for all you mathematicians out there. The machine is also rated at a hefty 5,500 pounds of operating capacity at 50% of tipping load with 12,907 pounds of breakout force. Now, the machine comes standard with a 1.25 cubic yard bucket, but then it's also got this really beefy hydraulic flow spec. The Minotaur boasts up to 41.6 gallons per minute at 4,100 PSI via 3/4 inch hydraulic quick couplers. So you'll be able to load into this machine into the tallest trucks. You'll be able to do your load and carry stuff. You'll be able to attach any number of hundreds of attachments to this thing. Whatever you want to do with it, this machine is going to be able to, meet those demands as a tool carrier with some of the most powerful CTLs on the market. Now, the final core component to what makes this machine fully CTL and fully dozer are the addition of fully integrated dozer controls. Now, inside the cab are a pair of electro-hydraulic joysticks. Now, that allows operators to easily switch between the ISO control mode when operating the machine as a loader and switching to dozer mode whenever you need to use it as a dozer. In CTL mode, as you'd expect, the left-hand joystick is going to control steering and forward and reverse travel, while the right controls your boom and bucket. Now, when you switch over to dozing mode, the left hand still handles your steering. It's going to take you forward, backward, and let you pivot on a dime, while the right-hand control is going to control the lift, angle, and tilt functions of the 6-way blade, exactly how you would expect a dozer to control. But look, the dozing control handles with these E over H controls don't stop at control scheme. Case has made sure that the dozing mode has the feel of a dozer. Now, we mentioned earlier how big of a role that the undercarriage and the C-frame play in this thing feeling like a dozer while you're using it to push dirt. But if you switch into dozing mode, the machine is actually going to automatically remap the hydraulic flow of the machine to mimic that of a dozer, the aggressiveness of the front end through the blade and the C-frame, and even the transmission. In fact, the machine has 16 virtual gears to let you run it just like a dozer. Now, one other cool bonus feature on the dozing controls is that Case has incorporated its blade shake and manual pitch adjustment dozing features into this machine. Some nice convenience features there. All right, well, that's going to do it for our deep dive overview of the Minotaur DL550 from Case. A first of its kind, a one of its kind machine that's definitely going to be interesting to watch as the years go by. We've already seen some other brands and competitors of Case introduce some, modified CTL models of their own, but as the CTL kind of heats up in general, it's going to be really interesting to see all of the various kind of like branches from the CTL tree that kind of sprout into new machines and new machine categories. Now, hopefully this video answered all of your questions around the Case Minotaur DL550, but if you have any others, be sure to leave us a comment. We always love hearing from you guys. And be sure to check this machine out on ironpros.com. Now, on Iron Pros, you can research your buying choices. You can take a look at a bunch of great content that hopefully answers questions just like this video did. And you can look at individual machine listings where you can read about those machines, check out videos and photos, and you can even compare specs. Be sure to check out ironpros.com. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.